Welcome back. We'll still be talking about the World Economic Forum, and Vincent Nwani joins us now to talk about that. He is the Director of Research and Advocacy at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Well, the World Economic Forum, yes, it's just being wrapped up, but we expect that lots of those groups and organizations and corporate bodies will have been putting heads together now, fine-tuning their policies, government agency inclusive, to see how they could benefit or just chart the course in terms of channeling funds, how the funds will be utilized when it comes. Are you optimistic that when this does come, we will eventually maximize those potentials and we'll see the economy thrive even further?
Yes, of course, there is no need, no reason to be pessimistic at this point. The commitments have been made. About 68 billion US dollars flowing into Africa, coming out from this World Economic Forum from Africa. This is a great news, although we would have expected more. But the issue now is moving from word of mouth to action. It's a huge task.
But what do you say to those who say, wait a minute, we need to get our corporate governance issues right, ease of doing business, regulatory framework, such that when the funds come in, it will just be properly utilized?
Of course, you know, this issue of reforms, making the right laws and getting the right political will have been on the table for long. The World Economic Forum for Africa is not just the first time these issues are coming to the fore. But I feel, and at the Lagos Chamber, we feel very strongly that probably and definitely the World Economic Forum is now a new catalyst for government to take the right action and decision. They've seen it, that is possible. And let's not be too, of course, we're optimistic, but this optimistic have to be discounted.
Is it a cautious optimism then?
Yes, it's a cautious optimism in the sense that reforms takes time. I listened to the Minister of Petroleum during the World Economic Forum, and she was even suggesting splitting or decomposing the almighty PIB, Petroleum Industry Bill, into two so that it will be a little bit more less weighty, flexible, so that it will be passed. And this is a bill that has been in the House over the last 10 years. You know, the bill has gone past the second reading, public forum, now passing through harmonization. And for us at the business sector, of course, it's not a great news, because it's just like going back to the drawing board again. It's as if you are now almost withdrawing the bill and you want to start having issue. It takes another 10 years. So we have to be excited, but this time government have to come out and do the right job. I listened to the last speaker from Abuja, Zainab. She said the right thing, that these reforms takes time, and more importantly, political will to get them executed.
Can we expect, we know that it takes time, as she said, can we expect any short-term measure? Because when you're talking about development and gains, people want to see the economy grow
right now, yeah.
Do we expect, would it be out of place for us to expect, okay, let's see some short-term measures to be taken, especially look at the Chinese premier's comments. It's like he came with a war chest.
Exactly. Of course, there are, if I were government and the drivers of this policy, well, what I would do is to decompose these opportunities into immediate, that is short-term, medium-term, and long-term, and see the quick wins I can leverage on. I've been in this station some months ago, and I said, if Nigeria can be growing in darkness on generator, as one of the biggest growth economy in the world, of course, just little adjustment and pick some few cities and demonstrate these things will be realized. Look at security. Of course, the whole world defies security. To a large extent, the security should almost take away a lot of shine from the World Economic Forum, but we stood our ground. If something is done about security, of course, it's not going to take us 10 years or 5 years to fix the current security challenges. These are also another source of quick wins. But if I am policymakers, what I will begin to do is to look at these opportunities from sector to sector. The Lagos State Governor, I think in less than a week, was talking about reform for a reform that will make sure that the waterways transportation is easier. You find out a situation where you have to go and take permission from the federal government because you want to build a small jetty in Ikorodu. These are challenges. Lagos is not the only one suffering from this. All the coastal states also benefit from these anomalies. So making a small policy or changing the law that hand over the control of waterways and inland waterways at the federal level is not going to be too tough.
Okay, there over 40 conversations were had at different venues, but sometimes back to back. But in conclusion, one of the things that they pointed out was that there's global recovery all over. I mean, the whole world is like recovering, but there's still anticipated risk. Now, the risk in terms of something like quantitative easing, for instance. How would that work out on the African continent, in Nigeria in particular?
Well, the whole world is recovering.
Especially with the risk in Nigeria, for instance, on the African continent, they talked about security in particular, and then energy, utilizing energy. How can we leverage on this and move?
Of course, you know that Africa is a big investment destination at this time, because we are looking at a continent that is striving to move away from a resource-based economy to a diversified, and that is the major core of the World Economic Forum. We say the economic transformation. For me, what I understand, what I take away is moving away from minerals, from primary sector to secondary and tertiary sector. That is just and making sure that human being drive this growth instead of growth just moving on its own. So for me, there is no much risk for Africa. Of course, Africa is well positioned to make gains from the risk we're seeing all over the world.
And for humans to drive that growth,
exactly,
we must also be talking about training, especially training,
not just training
for the right kind of job and tools.
Yes, two things must happen. Two things must happen. We have to address our human capacity in form of skills. You mentioned training, entrepreneurship, hands on the job. Education reform in Nigeria have to change from exam-based, theory-based to skill-based, because we have about 25% official employment rate. Unofficial is up to 40%, but I can tell you that 80–90% of these job seekers are unemployable, because not that they are not healthy, but hands-on. We have to do something with our educational system. We have to do something with our health sector. And of course, these are issues that really came on board during the World Economic Forum for Africa.
But again, if you look at it, a whole lot was said, especially from two African leaders who were also in attendance, Paul Kagame and Uhuru Kenyatta. They also talked about free movement of persons from, among countries on the continent. How does that help in driving this inclusive growth we've all talked about, so that one is not left out of this development?
Of course, that is a very solid point. I listened to a vice president from the Dangote Group, of course, the largest conglomerate in Nigeria now, and he said that moving their products across Africa, just West African coast, is a huge challenge. Something has to be done. And the great thing is that this initiative of moving around Africa without visa, of course, if that happens, that's a great news. Instead of flying to Europe first.
They talked about it too, in one of those private sessions.
Of course.
Movement, free trade.
Exactly, movement, free trade. That's a huge, but it takes a lot of diplomatic processes, takes a lot of time for it to be done, because countries such as, of course, South Africa feel that, okay, I'm a little bit better than others. We don't want to just open the shop for everybody to just walk in and destroy the system for them. But we have to start from somewhere. Charity begins at home. Let's even talk about actual free movement in West African coast, within West African coast first. Of course, now we talk about you can go to Ghana, you can go to Cote d'Ivoire without visa, but try and move ordinary truck along this corridor, you will see. But
it's easier for those trucks to come into Nigeria than for Nigeria to get into those countries. So are we not observing some of these things? If despite of those free trade agreements in ECOWAS countries are still a little bit finicky about what comes in, but it looks as if we're not paying attention to all of those.
I won't say it's easier for the stuff to come for the goods to come into the country, so into Nigeria, compared to Nigerian goods moving out. The challenge is the psyche and the nomenclature and the easiness to convince an average Nigerian manning the border with whatever you can convince them with. That is the difference.
Isn't that part of what makes it easy to come in?
But I was talking about charity beginning at home. Even in Nigeria here, moving a simple truck from Lagos to Madugri, when Madugri was Madugri, or even from Kano, right now it's a challenge. It's easier and even cheaper to move it through to Europe through yes, it is easier. It is because moving goods through truck from here to Kano takes about 3 days right now. I'm talking on behalf of our manufacturers who source their product, raw materials all the way from Kano as we speak.
Well,
takes a lot of time, and not just the distance, not just the bad road. At each point, moving from one state to the other, you are paying dues. Sometimes you are even delayed for a day. Sometimes this journey takes 7 days.
Did you hear about that comment? I think it was also mentioned at the Nigeria Economic Summit, but we also tried to bring it back to the table at the WEFA, World Economic Forum Africa, where transportation of goods within Nigeria sometimes costs, if not the same amount as the product or the goods, the agricultural product itself.
That's correct.
So we need to strengthen those transportation systems.
And for the benefit of viewers, the transportation cost now is not just the cost of maybe renting the lorry, but the cost of paying dues. They call it produce dues. You know, local government officials and state, everybody station their jobless boys on the road, and they keep on collecting, sometimes they destroy the goods. Wow. For getting to the destination. These are the challenges. So charity have to begin at home. Moving from word of mouth to action is a huge task. And like the former lady mentioned, Zainab, there is a huge need for political will. We just have to start from there. Of course, if I'm a private sector operator that attended the forum, it's a great platform to make pronouncements, make commitments. You know, it's a brand image and all of those things. But the money will not come out by just saying it. We want to make sure that by the time we are meeting next year for this World Economic Forum, I don't know where it's going to, I don't know whether South Africa is going to take it back again. I pray it's still going to be in West Africa. But we want to go back, or as we are preparing for the next World Economic Forum for Africa, to see this is where we are. These are the commitments that were made in Abuja last year. 30%, 60% of these commitments have been actualized in this sector, and these are the impact on job creation. These are the impact on life expectancy and health. Yesterday, I was speaking to the executive secretary of the Nigerian insurance, health insurance scheme, and I was shocked to hear that less than 2.8 million Nigerians are even covered by that scheme, out of 170 million Nigeria plus. So something have to be done to increase capacity in terms of health, in terms of skill of Nigerians. So
lots of grounds to cover there.
Exactly.
All right, Vincent Nwani is the Director of Research and Advocacy, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We've been speaking about the World Economic Forum in Africa. Thank you for coming on today, Vincent.
Thank you very much.
We will be, yeah, that's a wrap today actually, but let's take a break. We're back after this.